All right, folks, there's all kinds of things going on in the world and in the news, as there always is, and all along those lines. So, it's definitely some amazing things that are taking place, and we'll get to those and talk about what's happening in the world. And I've got one of the founders of the network, Nick Palveda, with me. And of course, we'll see if others decide to join as well. But there's all kinds of things happening, including a story that I know Nick will be interested in, because I actually found that in one of my other news sources, which is that the State Department is saying that there is definite evidence of Chinese interference in the upcoming elections. So they're already putting it out there that this is something that we might want to be concerned about, because it looks like there might be some interference coming from our folks in the Asian theater and all in that space. So that was just recently released and all along those lines. And we are talking about the protests that were going on, and some people, including Sasha, are thinking that some of these folks are paid to come to do the protest. But California College recently has announced that it's going to cancel its graduation ceremony as protests over the Israel war are continuing as well. So the USC, University of Southern Cal, has canceled its main graduation ceremony over protests and a controversy with their valedictorian as well. So looks like they're going to be canceling that also. And Hamza Yusuf canceled his Glasgow speech, as there is speculation that he will be resigning as Scotland's minister and all along those lines. So that Scottish leader is facing battle for survival after ending a power sharing deal over a climate change clash and all along those lines. And speaking of things that are going on in other parts of the world, I had also heard understood that there are, and he just recently ascended to the throne, concerns about King Charles' health. So definitely that is something else that I saw on one of my news sources as well. So there is some concern about the health of King Charles. Apparently, he is fighting a battle with cancer. So there is definitely some concerns in that regards as well. So, like I said, there's all kinds of things that are taking place in the world. And of course, we're always talking about the financial debt that we're in and all in that space, and how we're spending money and how we might be spending it in good places, not so great places, and all in that place. And by the way, US and China, speaking of that, are having some talks that are starting with warnings about misunderstandings. So definitely China warns the US of a downward spiral as Anthony Blinken met with Xi Jinping. So U.S. is threatening new China sanctions over supplies to the Russian arms industry. So it does look like we're going back and forth with the Chinese, and apparently there is some conversations that we're having, and we'll see what these conversations lead into. And there are still worries remaining of a Palestinian exodus into Egypt after the Rafah invasion. So Israel's assault on Rafah would bring disaster to the Middle East, according to what some aid groups are saying. And thousands of Palestinians in Rafah were leaving before the expected IDF invasion. So in India, we've got those elections going on as well. So actually, they've got some great turnout. So definitely, this will be interesting, because in Lok Sabha election, which is part of the Indian election, they're saying the Indian vote in phase two, as Prime Minister Modi is pushing a pro-Hindu line. But apparently in a part of their country, they had a nearly 61% turnout till 5 p.m. as 88 seats were voted in the Lok Sabha's phase two today. We wish we could get those kind of percentages here in the United States. And we know that Haiti's in trouble, but they now have a transitional government. So Haiti's transitional government has taken power as gangs are still holding the capital hostage. So the new Haiti government is sworn in during a secret ceremony, and the new Haitian Transition Council takes office, but there is definitely a long road ahead. And the Haiti police are bolstering security around the palace ahead of that transition. And a baby was saved from a dead mother's womb in Gaza, but unfortunately, that baby did pass away. So that is something that is going on as well. So just days after being saved, after the Israeli airstrike, that baby died a few days later, and all in that space. And South Africa, we were talking about that even when we were having conversations around divestiture, will mark 30 years of freedom amid inequality, poverty, and a tense election. So, yeah, they've got elections over there as well. So it looks like there's tense elections all over the world and all in that space. A Ukraine agricultural minister has been detained in a multi-million dollar corruption inquiry. So the Ukraine courts have ordered the agriculture minister to be taken into custody. So Ukraine's farm minister is the latest corruption suspect as Kyiv aims to undo recent Russian gains. So even as it is fighting its own war against the Russians, they are still having some internal conflicts as well. And Austin is to announce up to $6 billion arms commitment from the United States to Ukraine. So they'll be getting that money, and the defense secretary will be announcing that. So that'll be good. And it looks like Mike Johnson saved the Ukraine aid and all in that space. And I know that one of our founders is considering going to Spain, but it looks like they might be having some things going on as well, because Spain's prime minister, Pedro Sanchez, is considering stepping down. So it looks like there is some talk about him stepping down, and it looks like some folks are wondering where that could lead as well, because a Madrid prosecutor asked the judge to shelve investigations into the Spanish prime minister's wife and all in that space. So we definitely have conflicts even with our leaders of other parts of the world as well. And Venice is implementing an entry fee to deter tourists. So if you want to go to Venice, that very popular area in Italy, it looks like you're going to have to pay a tourist fee, because they are implementing that as well. And it looks like Italy, Greece, and yes, that country of Spain are piling in tourist taxes. And apparently the locals are a little bit conflicted about that, because we do know that a lot of times it is the tourists that do a lot of things in the space of the economy and all along those lines. So it looks like you might have to pay a tourist tax as well. And the Trump New York trial is entering day 8 with more testimony from American media CEO David Pecker. So it looks like he'll be testifying in that hush money trial, and we'll be seeing what has got to be said in that continuing drama as well. And John Roberts isn't happy with the previous ruling against Trump. So the Supreme Court conservatives' experience may influence the view of Trump's immunity. We talked about that a little bit on World Politics on yesterday. But Trump says it was made clear that a president has to have immunity during the monumental Supreme Court arguments and all in that space. So definitely it looks like that's going on. And of course, we still got the thing going on with TikTok. So it looks like the Chinese parent company ByteDance tells the U.S. that TikTok will not be sold. And there are some folks that are wondering, can the U.S. actually ban TikTok? And some folks are saying that this could be a legal question as well. So definitely there's all kinds of things happening in the world. The Tennessee governor, by the way, and that's just around the corner from me here in North Carolina, is planning to sign a bill that would let teachers carry guns in schools. So that's right. Your students, if you're in Tennessee, may be having a packing teacher, meaning they're packing a weapon, and all along those lines. And I know that Justin Jones, who had already had some interesting politics and interesting situations in Tennessee, was clashing with lawmakers, exposing a bit of division in that part of the country. And Governor Bill Lee says he will sign the bill to allow arming teachers in schools. So it looks like there might be some folks in that space as well. And Arizona defendant Christina Bobb plays a key role on the RNC election integrity team, and all in that way. And Idaho's biggest hospital, we were talking about that yesterday as well, says emergency flights for pregnant patients are up sharply. So Alito has reignited the fetal rights debate in the Idaho abortion cases. So mother describes leaving Idaho for abortion, and Supreme Court considers that state's banned. So definitely that's something else that folks will be talking about. And we talked about that on World Politics yesterday as well. And it looks like AI is in the news, because apparently in Baltimore, a Baltimore area teacher is accused of using AI to make his boss appear racist. So apparently a school principal is saying that he was framed using AI generated racist rants, according to what the police in that area are saying in that space. So a Pikesville High athletic director used AI to fake racist recordings of his principal, according to police and all along that space. But like I said, that's just some of the things that are taking place in the world, and we got all kinds of things that we can deal with in those conversations. I'm going to bring in Rick Rosner, who I know is a big fan of AI and all in that space. I've also got Jatovi with me as well, and maybe Nick will join me also. But I guess the first question I got to ask you, Nick, is what's your thoughts about this Spanish prime minister? Because I know you're thinking about a visit to Spain, and also the notion of these tourist taxes, because apparently there's a lot of folks that want to do these tourist taxes, and that is their way to handle folks that are traveling through their country.
Okay. Yeah, I recommended the tourist tax to Venice a long time ago. They have way too many people. It's like Disney World, but it's super crowded. And the way to stop it, because it was weird, because you could just walk in free. You don't get to walk into Disney World for free. They whack you with $150. And Venice, there's only one way in and out, and they could easily whack you with $150, and people would pay it. So you might as well do it so they can keep their streets clean and fix their infrastructure, because all these people that come here, and it makes Venice very unpleasant. I mean, seriously, in terms
it's only $5. The tax is only $5 to get in there.
Well, that's because they're cheap Europeans. Come on, man. They got to hit them with an American Disney World price, $150. If you
but the good thing about all the tourists,
$5,
and also that it floods a bunch of times every year, so they have to have portable sidewalks that they can unfold these tables that work as sidewalks, so you're 3 feet above the flooded streets. The great thing is you can buy a condo in Venice for less than you can buy a condo in Van Nuys. The most beautiful.
I know that. I mean, I know that. I've been shopping Venice as a place to buy a place to. And there's actually a place where the locals live, which is on the far end of the island. And the thing is, the problem for me, it goes back to airport. I mean, I like to be close to an airport so I can fly in and out. And so Venice is, and also the other problem, Rick, it's too crowded. I mean, the tourists.
But Venice is like 40, 60 little islands. You don't have to live on the main two islands. You can
right. Yeah, you could live on Murano. You could live on one of the other islands. That's true. But then you always have to get around. For me, it's the boat to the airport. Okay, and I'm going I don't want to do that.
It is kind of weird, but yeah, your bus is a boat. And
your bus is a boat. Yeah. I mean, I was taking boats, and they also have what they call water taxis. Now, last time I was taking the water taxis. They're really expensive, but they're really cool because they dropped me right off at my hotel, which was right on the water, and it had a taxi entrance. It was really cool. So, but the real problem, I hate to say it, with Venice is the tourist. And I always want them, but I'm just saying, it's like you have to imagine the Americans, the Germans, the Europeans. I mean, it's like Disney World. I mean, would you really want to live in the middle of the Magic Kingdom?
We went in November, and it was cold, and there were no tourists because it was cold. But
it might be good during part of the time. Well, I mean, that's the same part with Barcelona. The problem I have is it's very touristy, at least in the Gothic quarter. So I'm looking a little maybe further out or around there. But in terms of the politics, let's go to Spain politics. Okay.
Yes.
They're like a mini United States, except they're not as crazy as they are here. Okay. Because they think themselves in terms of provinces, like you're in the Basque country if you're north, if you're in the south, you're Catalanian, if you're in the far south, you're Andalusian, and they all identify that way. And in Italy, they identify themselves by what city they're in. In other words, I consider myself Florentine first, Italy second, Italy only during the Olympics. I'm Roman first, or I'm Pisan first, or I'm Sienan first. They're really very ethnic cities in Italy. It's just absolutely amazing. But they're not crazy about it. Here, the people are crazy. I'm Republican, and I hate you because you're a liberal Democrat. Yeah. See, they're just not that bloody crazy. And they know when an American walks in because they're loud and obnoxious. Okay, they go, it's Americano.
Speaking of loud and obnoxious. Yeah, speaking of loud and obnoxious, I was wondering, and particularly since, all three of you have kids. I don't have any of those. I do have my two nephews and all in that space, and definitely have some friends that are younger. But I guess I'll start with Jatovi, but I'd love to hear from Rick and even you, Nick. But your kids are grown and gone and now. But how would you feel if you were going to go to a place like Tennessee, which is right near us and everything, and there was the possibility that your teacher might be packing? Because apparently that was the other news story that I saw, was that they were going to approve allowing the teachers to carry guns there in the fine state of Tennessee. And that's what even the governor, Mr. Bill Lee, has said that he has no problem with signing that law and everything. So what's your thoughts around teachers packing, whether it's in Tennessee or maybe they'll do it in Texas or some of these other relatively conservative states? For all I know, your kids may be having a teacher that's packing even here in North Carolina, Jacoby. But what is your thoughts around teachers that are carrying guns?
As a dumb idea, and that's the nicest way I could put it. Guns are the number one killer of young kids right now. And what you want to do, your best idea is to give guns to an unpaid, a very underpaid position that is thankless for the most part and is really under attack right now by parents and other outside media groups. Yeah, let's go ahead and toss guns into the mix. That's really going to solve nothing. So it is a dumb idea, and that's, like I said, that's the nicest way I could put it.
What's your take on that, Nick? You're a lawyer and everything. So what's your take on the idea of guns?
Rick has a comment that I'll come
in high school, I annoyed my newspaper teacher so much she held up her X-Acto knife and threatened to cut off my balls. If she'd had a gun, she would have pulled a gun on me. And
oh, that's exciting. Well, I mean, in my middle school, what happened is teachers just they couldn't get control of the middle school. Our middle school kids were out of control, so the teacher threw a chair at everybody, and he was a bodybuilder, and he finally got control of it. But my thoughts are like this, okay? And this is the reason I disagree with the public school system in the United States. I first started working there, and I thought, oh, this is really great. I was a chess teacher at the public schools. The people were nice until the administrations changed. And then they started accusing me of all sorts of stuff, and I'm going, this school sucks. And I talked to a lot of public school teachers. They go, public school sucks. It's because the administration, the rules, and the garbage. Okay. From that and going to public and private schools, I'm a big supporter of private now and charter schools. What convinced me? Working in the public school system. So the other day I went to a charter school where my kid who goes to a public school, my grandkid, excuse me, who plays at Chapel Hill High School volleyball, is playing at a charter school. Guess what? All the parents show up. In other words, they support their school. You go to a public school, the parents are like this. So I think one of the solutions we need, I hate to say it, is more charter schools. Sorry, public schools, you're trash. You're committed to being trash, and this just adds to more of the trash.
You said that was incorrect. What you got to say to that?
Well,
it's not
Rick
incorrect.
and Kim had their hands up first, so we can hear from those two first, and then I'll jump in.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your thoughts, by the way, Kim, just to let you know, we were addressing this notion of guns in schools, because apparently that's something that they're talking about allowing in Tennessee and everything. But I know you come from not just North Carolina, but the great state of Texas. And of course, they have all kinds of people that are carrying all kinds of things, sometimes in their truck, sometimes in their person and everything. But what's your thought about the teachers carrying guns? That's kind of where the conversation was going now.
Oh, Lord. Well, I think that we've had a lot of gun issues and problems, and we just need to think smart before we react. There are better ways to handle this situation. But, we're losing teachers hand over fist. One, out of fear, they're scared to teach. Two, they don't make enough money to cover their bills or pay their student loans. So, the teachers are just getting abused in so many different ways. I agree with Nick in one way that the charter schools are really good. One of the things I liked about them was the teacher to the student ratio, and that the parents got to be more participative to what happened in the school. Now, to contradict a little bit about what Nick was saying in the public schools, because I spent a lifetime, since I was in high school, donating my time to, school, to making sure that children learned how to read, because I learned very young that they were not teaching the children how to read. They were just passing them read. They were just passing them through. But what I learned in the public schools as I got older was it wasn't the parents wanted to participate. A lot of them work, 2 or 3 jobs, and they don't make it easy for them to participate. But when you're busing the children across the city to schools that are so far away that they can't even catch a bus to get to in less than an hour of a time, and then you're asking them to work 8 hours, catch a bus for an hour, then walk maybe another hour to participate in the children's school, then you didn't think properly to make it easy for the parents to participate when you had some families that lived, 5 minutes from the school. So I think the way that they did, trying to segregate the schools and everything, I think what they need to do is make the schools more equal in how much they fund them and how much they pay the teachers. I think that they need to make it easier for parents. Stop busing kids across the city. My parents couldn't participate because one of us went all the way across the city to one school, another one got bused to a different direction, and the third one got bused to a fourth direction. We were all over the city. So I don't think busing kids in and out made it equal. I think it made it unequal. And I think we just need to bring the kids closer back to home so the parents can participate. That's what I got to say.
I looked up
Be
the
smart
average
about the
teacher
gun
salary.
situation.
The average teacher makes less
Go
than
ahead.
54 grand a year in Tennessee. And when you have people paid that little, you either have saints who are teaching despite the crappy pay, or you have like people who are just like incompetent and crappy. So you've got a mix, and then you're just going to throw guns into the mix, probably with no extra training.
Perfect.
And it's like, so, and what's the purpose? Like, is it deterrence? Because the people who shoot up schools don't care. They want to die in the middle of their barrage. So you're not going to keep the insane mass shooters out of the schools. And is it to take down the mass shooter? Like, okay, so now we got like gun. I guess that's like, I don't know. It seems.
Well, I think we need one point of entry to the schools, emergency exits, but in a manner of which, people can't get in, those things. Yeah, turn them into a little bit of a prison, protect our children like we do the prisoners. But I think that if you do something like that, put in a little bit better sentry systems in the schools. Right now, we have a problem with the kids taking guns to schools.
Mhm.
That's a big problem. We've got children shooting children, and we got children committing suicide. So, I mean, what we need to do is just learn a little more respect and start putting a little bit better ethics back into the school. Charter schools does that in a lot of ways. I love the charter school system. But I don't think that we can make that available to every child.
Yeah, it's a scam. Charter schools are a financial scam often to suck money out of the public schools. Yeah, the last time I was in the public, in the 80s.
Well, what do you mean it's a scam? I mean, this is liberal lunatic.
I think
talk.
they're better.
That
No,
is
hold on a
absolutely
second.
not
Hold on a second. I just want to hear from Jacoby and all on those lines. But I will add just really quickly that there is
not a scam. So liberal
hold on a second. I
lunatics
definitely
get
hear
off
from
this
Jacoby.
scam stuff. If your public schools suck, it's because the people there who are running them suck. And so that doesn't mean that every student has to have a sucky education because you can't run your public schools to save your blood.
So everything you just said right there, Nick, was wrong.
It's absolutely true.
It's wrong.
You need to go work in the public
reason it's
schools.
wrong. Counselor, let me explain, counselor. Let me explain since I'm taking the floor here, counselor.
Worked there.
Let me explain.
I worked there. I had first-hand
counselor. You can claim that you have first-hand experience, but I do too. Counselor, you can claim your first-hand experience, but I do as well. Probably more so than you.
Maybe not.
Let me explain. And we're not going to pull the card of, hey, this is where I work, so this is where you work, because we all are educated here and we can make an educated argument. So let me explain why I'm stating that you are incorrect. What Rick pointed out is spot on. So therefore, there's a lot of problems with the public school system because the charter school system has siphoned a lot of money from the public school system. On top of that, if you look at neighborhood schools, we have a problem there because exactly what Kim was talking about, how kids were being bused all across different areas, across the whole city that they actually live in. So therefore, their parents cannot even be entertained. Well, they can't even deal with they can't get across to the school that they are now having to go to because their kid couldn't get in the lottery system, where this school is now getting more money based around the neighborhood that they live in. So now you got your public school system where you have different public schools are better than other public schools based around funding, which is what the public school system is lacking. So now you have, again, we just talked about the funding problem and we're talking about the busing problem. The funding within itself deals with the busing because it brought to light to a lot of people, which don't really understand in Durham, the situation that was going on where people were quitting and leaving because of the actual funding that they were getting. The funding deals with the busing situation. So kids cannot get to the schools close to them because of the busing. And when the buses break down and those individuals are not able to help out or, the mechanics can't fix the buses, that becomes a problem. So then your school system lacks there. Technology wise, certain schools only have computers. Other schools don't. So therefore, those kids that are going to the schools are left behind in the first place because they don't have access to the technology that these other schools have access to. Charter schools can pay their teachers a little bit more. However, there aren't a ton of charter schools because, as Rick pointed out, a lot of them become scams. A lot of them are just, hey, you pay money and we're just going to put this label on your child, even though that label means nothing anywhere else. It's because we're just passing your child because, again, that money comes in and that money goes out. So it becomes a money situation for not only the teachers and everywhere else. So then getting back to the point of why you keep saying, well, the public school system, they're the public school system. They serve the public. So they deal with they can't handpick the kids that go to these charter schools, which the charter schools can. The charter schools can grab the kids at these upper echelon levels and say, hey, we're the best because we have the cream of the crop. Yeah, you stole those kids from the public school system and actually got paid for doing that. So therefore, now you have this scam where the charter school is making extra money because they can claim that they have these top tier kids, which a lot of them do because they grab them from the public school system, which has to deal with all the kids without the funding that the charter schools.
It's like your insurance pools that you talk about, Nick.
Exactly.
Like
Adverse selection.
Yeah, there are a lot of great charter. If you can get your kid into a charter school that's well run and where the administrators aren't embezzling, then it can be great for that kid. But yeah, it's bad for the school system as a whole.
So what you guys want to do is you want to punish the good, hardworking kids.
Incorrect.
And force them to go into schools that are run by the state that don't know how to run schools, obviously.
Incorrect.
It puts our K through
Counselor,
12
you didn't listen
in
to
the
a
worst
thing that I
possible
stated.
situation. And people
The
like myself, I don't
problem
want to go to
is-
your scummy public schools.
Incorrect.
And when I
The
looked at your
problem is that
scummy
we
public
are
schools,
we are
I ran into a
siphoning
scummy
so much
administration.
money.
It was
We
it was
are
obviously a
siphoning
liberal
so much
lunatic
money.
run asylum. I don't
We
want to
are
go to school in a
siphoning
liberal
so
lunatic
why
much
run
can't we
money
asylum.
from the
find-
public
Give me a
school
choice
Hold
to
on a
get
second.
the heck
I think
out.
Kim had something
Get
she
kids
wanted to
out of
say.
those
Hold on a
Why,
second.
why can't we find a
Go charter
median in this and
We already did. We
create
have charter
schools
schools that
that
make
have
sense.
a balance between both? One of the things I loved about the charter school was they worked with the children's disabilities a little more better, and they worked with the parents a little bit better than the public schools did. And one of the problems I have with the public schools is this little rule that they have that only a certain percentage are supposed to pass. Only a certain percentage are supposed to make this grade. Only a certain percentage are supposed to make
That's
this
incorrect.
grade. And that is not incorrect.
That is-
because
I have
worked
two
with
kids in the
schools.
public school system. So what you just stated is false. It is
Jacoby,
not.
I've
let
had
me-
kids in the
Tim,
public
I
school
am
system
actually
way
working
before
in.
you
I
came
am in
on.
this situation you're
I've-
talking about,
It is
and
not.
what you're saying is that
It is
the public
true.
school system is trying to have particular kids only pass here, only pass here, and only pass here. That is false. Also,
It is
when
not
you're talking
false.
about special needs kids,
Jacoby,
I
was
have a
there.
child with special needs, so I'm in this position currently. So, yes, charter schools, just as I stated before, have more money. Therefore, they can actually provide more services. Yet,
Private schools
public
have more
school
money.
system-
So what?
No,
No, but
incorrect. The
hold on a
public school
second,
system
Jacoby. Hold on a
actually
second,
does a
Jacoby.
great job. When
No,
you
Toby, I
have
did have a question based on what you
Yeah.
and Kim were talking about. Because as y'all know, I don't hide it and everything, that I work for a company that does what she's talking about. So yes, there is the bell curve that exists, and yes, there is the
Yes, there
standardized
is.
testing that exists in this company, and that is what I think Kim is referring to. So that bell curve does want a certain amount of students to have a certain level, because that's what they're trying to create, is that whole bell curve with, and I think that's where she was going at
They
with
do
that notion.
enforce it. I've seen them get rid of teachers who had an outstanding
Teachers hate
ratio
working
of
for public
students
schools. They
who
hate
were passing just because
have
they had too many
never-
The
students.
charter schools are the only thing that are
having
going to
a
save the United
parent
States.
who was in the public school
Public schools
system,
are run by
having
liberal
no,
lunatics.
I have yet to see
And Tennessee's
any,
just
and
one of them.
actually being an individual that DPS calls, I have yet to see where a public school system fires an overachieving teacher.
No, they quit. You don't understand.
No,
Jacoby.
I've
Because
seen
they get
where
paid
they
elsewhere
told them
more.
that
They
had to
tell me the
leave.
administration,
They
the
get
bureaucracy,
paid
you
more
know what they
elsewhere.
do? Most of your dollars that you keep saying, oh, they don't have the money, went to buy more administrators. 3 times more administrators were hired than teachers over the
Why-
last decade. Go look up it. It's a
Why
fact,
can't we
Jacoby.
just
It's a fact.
It's a
take
fact.
money
It's
from
just
the lot of
poorly
years?
run.
We're
poorly
talking
managed,
about
has
money,
nothing to do with
and
the
that
money.
is where
I couldn't
that
wait
is
to
the
get away from
issue. The charter
public
school systems
system
do the same
is a 4-letter
thing.
word.
So the
Sucks.
No,
argument
the
that
public school system does the same thing, because the schools we're testing
I had
are
to go to
both
both.
public, private, charter. There are all the schools in all of
I
the
went to-
different systems, and that's measurement is only one of them. There's Pearson. There are a number of companies, and yes, they do test across the board. They usually test all of the schools that exist, whether they are public, private, or whatever. But one of the things that happens, and I don't know y'all thoughts around this, because we actually have a show that is here on the network. It airs on
We have one on
right
schools.
before the notion of the world politics that is coming from St. Cia Academy, and some of these schools have targeted markets and all along those lines. So definitely Mama Noni does something that is more Afrocentric and all in that line. There are some that do it that are more religious centered, because I knew that a ex of mine used to have her kids when they were in school age, because I think they're all graduated by now. They would go to I think it's called Gorham or something like that, but it's a Christian school and all in that space. And there's Durham Nativity. So there are some of these targeted schools as well. I will say that one of my mentors is very much an advocate of charter schools, that being Howard Fuller, who used to be at Marquette, and he is a big advocate for the charter school system. So definitely charter school can have its good benefits as well as its negatives, because definitely there have been some charter schools that have not done an effective job. So we do have some shows that center on education. I just wanted to share that, because
The
that
attack on public schools is part of a political trend
Yes.
paid for by high dollar, super rich, super conservative lunatic donors. In the 2010s, the Republicans learned to play small ball politics and take over state legislate. They're targeting school boards, and the lunatic billionaire, right-wing billionaires don't like public schools. I'm talking Betsy DeVos and the people like her. And
hey, Rick, and what did Betsy DeVos run?
she ran
She ran Amway.
of education.
No, but I'm saying, what department did she run? This
I
person
just
that
said it.
doesn't
I
like
just
schools.
freaking said it. She was
Department of-
Trump's. She ran Trump's
She was the head of
department. Read
Department of
about her. She
Education.
was a
Department,
terrible
exactly.
secretary of education. She's an advocate for private schools. They
Because private schools are the best. That's the reason.
No, because private schools are where you can get taught more Jesus stuff. Betsy
No,
DeVos.
it's because they
Look at what
actually
Betsy
teach
DeVos's
people and they don't have to
background
deal
is.
with liberal lunatic ideas that
Incorrect
keep flooding
again,
the
Nick.
private public schools. Liberal lunatics don't want to teach math, science, technology. They want to teach, let's learn about political stuff. And so the thing is, of course, she's behind private schools. Private schools are better than public schools, period, the end. Go look at even the colleges. top schools in the country, private schools, not public schools, private schools. When I went to University of Miami, I was so grateful because it's a private school. I knew I'd get my law degree. At University of South Florida, which is a public school, it sucked. And University of Florida, please don't go there, or Florida State. I mean, the public school system, if you can stay away from it, do so. The private school,
here's a question.
People graduate. The public schools, they don't give a rat's
Counselor,
rear. They're just looking for their liberal
incorrect.
agenda. And
Incorrect.
it is
Counselor,
so
here's a
correct.
question.
And I've
Here's a
spent
question
10
for
years
you.
with
You're
those
talking
people.
about private schools
You know,
and all
can't
this
wait
other
to get
stuff.
out. And I know there's a
How
lot of kids out
can-
there listening.
Here's a
They
question.
can't wait to
Here's
get
a
out of
question.
prison,
Counselor,
otherwise
hold on.
known as
Here's a question
public
for your
school
private
system.
school and your charter
Like
your
a little
charter school,
prison.
push. And also, just on a
Come here,
tangent,
Tilly.
no, most
Come here,
schools right now, most of all schools right now have that one entryway. Yes, they have other doors for exits because that's a fire safety code. No, they should not be like prisons because you throw schools. I mean, kids are already under pressure. Now you make it like a prison. That makes the pressure even worse. So they cannot learn in that type of situation. It should be more of a welcoming situation. And
Yeah, like a charter school. So just
and
get rid of
so-
all the public schools, make them
and
all
so to
charter
get
schools.
back
I
to the
don't
point
know.
of the charter and these private
And then
schools,
get rid of the state.
how much does it cost to go to these
School
schools?
boards. And the stupid school boards. I had to go.
How
several
much
times
does
in
it
front of
cost
stupid
your
school
average
boards.
kid to go
How
to
much
these
does it
private
cost
schools?
not to teach our
I'm
average kid?
asking a simple question.
I'm asking
because
us.
what
I'm
you're
giving you a
talking
simple
about, these
answer.
private schools,
And the thing is,
they
I
do
can't
not
tell you how many
cater
times
to the
I had to
public.
go in front of
The
stupid
masses
school boards
themselves
trying to
need
get
to
to
be
overturn
incorporated
stupid
in the
ideas.
solution.
And you know
Because
what? You
what
can't
you
get
end
school
up
boards
doing
to move.
is creating
So the
a
best thing to do is move your
two-tier
kids
Hold on a
to a
second. I
charter
want to hear
where
from
people
Kim
What
really
does
get
quick.
left
any of
behind.
this? What does any of this really buy us now at this given point in time? One of the questions I
Maybe better
have
education
is
for your
that
kids.
North Carolina lottery alone generated 10 point some billion dollars. How much of that actually went to the education fund? You know,
I'm in agreement with you.
they twist the words around. I love how they say this. 100% of the net proceeds have gone to the education program. But how much was the net the expenses? How much did they spend on administrative costs? You know, they twist the words.
Yeah, that's
around.
where it went to. Most of it.
I've got
Kim,
no
Kim,
issue
if
with
you
that.
tell
No,
me
I
ever,
would
ever
like
look
to
at
know
what
why
liberal
we're not
lunatic
taking the
was.
money and
They're
spending
taking
it
all the money
on
and they're buying
education.
administrators.
What I'm
more
talking
people with
about,
government jobs,
because when you're
shifting
talking
papers
Pay
about,
around,
teachers more.
not
Okay,
teaching
now.
your
yes,
kids.
pay teachers, definitely
Okay,
pay
no, they're
teachers
not
more.
sending money to the teachers. They're sending money to the administrators.
We're
And
all in
go look at
agreement
what's
in
going
that.
on in North
But the
Carolina.
problem comes into
And
play
the
when you're
only way
talking
you can get
about
rid of
private
those
schools,
crazy
charter
liberal
schools,
lunatics
all
is
these
charter
upper
schools.
echelon schools, when you leave the majority of the public out by creating a two-tier educational system,
It
which
could be
does
one
not
tier.
service
Make
the
everything
public.
charter schools. Then you don't have to worry about it.
Hey, but
Everything should be a
hold on a
charter
second.
school.
But you
Get
said
Charter
you want
schools
to.
become
Nick, you
public
said you
schools,
want
and
to
then
do. Hold
you
on a second.
complain
rid of
Nick,
public schools. They're
hold on a
horrible.
second. You said
They're
you want to do
waste.
one tier and all along those lines. If I
One
remember
tier
correctly,
charter.
you said you want to do one
Okay,
tier.
okay,
and
wait,
you're
wait,
talking
wait.
about the benefit of these private schools on the
Hold on.
college level and
Everybody should be
everything.
entitled
But
to
I
a
know for a
charter
fact
school
that North Carolina Central is
No.
public, but also a school that
Mark,
that
hold
Kimberly
on.
is involved with is also public as
Hold
well.
on.
And I think that
Mark,
State
get
is
rid
a
of
very good school, just like I think that
Wait.
UNC is a
Get
very
rid
good
of them.
Wait,
Make them
wait,
all.
wait.
Make them all charter.
Hold on,
and private
counsel,
schools. I'm
counsel.
okay with that.
You just said make all public schools charter schools. That means they're
Yeah.
still public schools.
No, they aren't. They're charter.
You're doing the
schools.
same thing. You're just making every
No,
school. You're just
they're
relabeling a
run
public
by-
school to
run
a
by
charter
the
school.
parents,
So
not
therefore,
stupid
then you have
school
all
boards,
public
and they don't
schools
have to
being
listen
charter
to the
schools.
stupid
It's the
legislation.
same
Now just
thing. If you're
conform
going to service
everything
the
to
public,
charter
you gotta
school
service the public.
policies.
They don't have to listen to
Conform
the
to
stupid
charter school
legislatures, and they don't have to listen to the stupid school boards. Make it all of
You're
them charter.
going to end up in the
Just
same
really quickly, hold on a
situation.
No,
second.
you
Hold
won't.
on, because I want to kind of pivot to another conversation. This has been very interesting. We'll definitely bring in some educators and all along those lines. But Kimberly, because I brought up another topic earlier about India and everything, I was very impressed, and I want to know y'all's thoughts around this. Will we ever get to the point that we can have something, and I think it's just a district in India that's got like some 62%, because that's the figure I gave, of people that are actually voting in that region and everything. So can we ever get to the point where we're going to have that here in the United States?
We
No.
had that in 2020 for the first, a higher percentage of voting age people voted in 2020 because we made it fairly easy to vote. Because of COVID, 2/3 of voting age Americans voted, which is an unheard of percentage, highest in history.
And in Australia, it's mandatory that all everybody votes.
Everybody
but the
has
thing
to
is,
vote.
But the Republicans didn't like that, because when the more people who vote, the worse the Republicans do. So they have worked on hundreds of bills across the state legislatures to limit voting. So this year, also because we have a couple candidates that people are sick of, we're going to probably get 160 million people voted last time. This time, probably going to be more like 150 million.
yeah, I would agree with that.
I
There's going
think
to be
that
less
they
voters
should make
because
everybody
there's no
vote.
choices.
I think everyone should have to vote like they do in other countries. It's mandatory that every
That would be great. The Republicans
one
won't
has to
allow
work.
it.
I mean,
The-
vote.
Well,
And I just think that it's very important, whether you have a job or not, whether you, in fact, I think it's more important if you don't.
I think we have to make it easier to vote, and that would allow for more people to vote. The more you make it easier,
and also you're
we create
assuming that
I
democracy
mean, make
is the
it
best
over
form
instead of making it a
government, which is
Tuesday,
not
make it
true.
over a weekend, or make it
Well,
make
you
it
know,
longer than
in
just
people
one
in
day.
Australia,
And
Okay, you're also making an assumption that democracy is the best form of government, which is not true. As a
I
matter of
met
fact,
a lot of
China has
interesting
proven
people
it
from
is not true.
Australia, and they all think that, first off, why
Wait a
bother
minute,
voting
Nick.
in
What did you say is the
America?
best
Because
form
we
of
got
government?
this
Did you say
many
socialism is the best form of government?
idiots.
No, they're not socialistic. They're an autocracy run by Xi Jinping, and they've shown, China has shown that they're the better form of government than the United States. Democracy is way overrated. A bunch of idiots voting, and you're going to get a better decision. That's
Well,
not true.
hey, but Nick,
And
speaking of
Xi
democracy,
Jinping goes,
but
no,
Nick,
I'm
Nick,
going to run
speaking
the
of
government.
democracy
I'm
being
going to run
overrated, there was a African nation that apparently did something that we also talk about, and we can get this on the media show on Monday. But apparently, Burkina Faso has suspended both the BBC and the Voice of America for reporting on their army killings. So, whereas certain countries are allowing people to see what's going on, I guess in that particular country, they are going like, no, we don't want y'all to in here to report on what's happening, because they suspended both the Voice of America and the BBC, particularly after their soldiers massacred 223 civilians in one day, according to a rights group over there.
Too bad, as they would say. So they massacred a bunch of people.
Here's a story that's pretty interesting. The New York Times is feuding with the Biden administration. They don't like that Biden hasn't given them all the access they want, so they've been running like a lot of negative reporting. And it's been bubbling over into the public now with stories about this.
So
Speaking of that and everything, I did have a quick question for Sasha, and I know he's going to have the Ukraine, Russia, China show very shortly and everything. But is there any concern? Because that's one of the other stories that I mentioned about the kind of things that are going on within the Ukraine. Because apparently there is a corruption inquiry going on, and apparently the agriculture minister has been detained. So I know that they are doing a very valiant job of fighting against this Russian invasion. But is there any concern about what is happening internally in Ukraine, particularly with this farm minister? And I think there have been some other cases as well. But I just wanted your take as an advocate for the Ukraine.
No, there is no concern. Why should we worry about the possible corruption in Ukraine when you have corrupted the Supreme Court in the United States and you cannot do anything about it? They are corrupted, especially six appointed by Republicans, call them judges, lawyers, human beings, if they are. This is absolutely incredible what they are doing. And Biden, first thing when he will be reelected, he should increase Supreme Court to 15, put all Democratic judges there, and finish this extravaganza, which making the president is allowed to commit all kind of the crimes and cannot be sued for that. They derailed all the suit because the special counsel approached them in December to qualify the immunity problem, and they sent him back. They wouldn't even take it. But they did take it later on and extended for almost 3 months their stupid hearing yesterday. They were waiting. They couldn't do it a month ago, 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago. They had to wait all 3 months to listen to that garbage yesterday, and eventually they will send it back to legislature, to the state court to make a new or revise their decision and so on. This is horrible. It's inexcusable. They all have to be gone. That's my opinion. It's not network's opinion. It's my own personal opinion.
So yesterday or the day before, 11 people were indicted for trying to overturn the election with fake electors in Arizona. Clarence Thomas's wife was working with all of them and supporting all of them. And yet there's no way we can even force Clarence Thomas to recuse himself from issues like this, even though his wife was a major force in the false electors scheme.
You know, it's very interesting what Sasha brought up is that the justices that were appointed by Trump are now hearing a Trump decision. And the thing is, normally you would ask for a recusal, or the judges would sua sponte just recuse themselves. But you notice
they are decent human beings, but they are not.
But you notice none of them have recused themselves in this case, which kind of floors me, but doesn't, because I've been in front of this before, where I was in front of an arbitrator who lied on his arbitration application, said, we don't know who the defendant is. And then we, through discovery, found out, no, you did know who the defendant was. You not only that, you owned his house. It was a weird way. They actually owned the guy's house for a long 3 years. And we asked them to throw out it. And you know what? The whole judicial system said, well, this is how the system works in the United States. In other words, okay, so you have a complete conflict of interest and it's okay. And everybody just shrugs their shoulders.
And you can lie and it's okay.
I go, yeah, right. He actually lied on his application.
Right.
They had a complete conflict of interest. I went all the way to the Supreme Court to try to get this thing thrown out, and he couldn't get it thrown out. So it doesn't surprise me that you see the Supreme Court justices who were appointed by Trump is now listening to a case by the person who appointed them. It's like, welcome to, and you know what? The media said nothing about it. I'm going like,
no, they said
at least mention it.
They said it multiple times, especially with Clarence Thomas and his corruption and everything that he's got going on.
And then and I don't know if you know that
John Oliver did a great piece on Clarence Thomas. He even at the end of that show said that he'd pay Clarence Thomas $1 million every single year until he passes away, if he just steps down from the court, and also give him a brand new RV, the kind that he likes, and if he'd step down, because it's legal for him to do that, which is crazy.
I'm curious what their
like a game show, and we'll give you an RV, and we'll do this.
I mean, it's just like it's. I'll tell you, it's really difficult to watch. And being licensed.
But to Kim's point, wasn't there a very popular TV show that was along those same lines? Because it sounds like another version of a very old show called Let's Make a Deal.
Yeah, well, that's what it seems like. So anyway, I can see that. I think you got some serious, and you know what? The Supreme Court passed their own new ethics rules. Okay, but does anybody enforce them?
Wait a minute, they passed their own ethics rules, so they're going to
be they actually
be the overseers of their own ethics rules.
Yeah, well, there's actually, if you're a judge, you actually have a judicial ethics rules that are out there, and if you're going to be a member of the bar, you actually have to pass the multi-state ethics exam, etc. And I used to teach ethics for continuing legal education. I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to teach it on a going forward basis. What am I going to say? Well, conflicts of interest, that's what the rule says, but in reality, here's how it works.
Speaking of conflicts of interest.
Here's the crazy thought, because I heard this was actually something that was brought up, and this is to touch on what Rick had brought up about, all these individuals, the fake electors getting arrested or going to jail. You have some of the people on January 6th going to jail. You have, from Rudy Giuliani to Michael Flynn and all these other individuals going to jail. All the people who were surrounding Trump have gone to jail. But the man in the middle, for some odd reason, we're in front of the Supreme Court arguing if he should have immunity.
Yeah, right. Welcome to the
How is that possible?
Let me ask you, what makes sense?
Toby, welcome to American justice, baby.
And there's one thing. All the trial now being postponed because of this immunity issue. That's fine. So why is this New York hush money trial is still continue?
It's because he
Why?
couldn't figure a way to appeal it. That's all. He's got to wait till it goes to appeal. So remember he had the other case. He lost the 83 million in defamation, and it was just upheld by the
Well, speaking of Trump and all along those lines, there is another topic that he talks about. He's been talking about it even when he was in office. But apparently, maybe he's going to borrow from the Japanese, because one of the other stories that I saw recently is that and we're talking about tourism and what other countries do, but there's an overrun Japanese town that has put up an 8-foot barrier because too many people are taking photos of Mount Fuji. So maybe he's going to do the same thing, because I know he's talking about that wall down in Mexico. So maybe he's going to borrow from Mount Fuji, because apparently they have put up this 8-foot wall to stop people from actually taking pictures of that popular tourism attraction and everything. So I guess they want folks to, because they're feeling like you were just talking about Venice, they're feeling overwhelmed as well. So they're going like, we'll just put up a big thing so y'all can't get pictures of the nice fancy mountain.
I'm telling you, just charge the people as they come in, just like they're doing in Venice, but not $5. Make it 10,000. Money can solve a lot of problems if you have.
So you saying to Mount Fuji, the town of Mount Fuji should charge $10,000, and
10 grand.
Would the $10,000 also come with a camera?
Yeah, I would even give them a camera. By the way, I'll tell you what, for all those immigrants coming across the border, they pay 10 grand. I'll even give them a cell phone so I can track them. So hey, Jatovia, it's a good deal. You get a cell phone, a U.S. citizenship for $10,000.
No, hold on a second, because before we get off, because I know in about 9 minutes we got to go to Ukraine, Russia, and China and everything. But the other story, because I knew Rick and them were going to jump on it, but they didn't jump on it. But what is our thoughts around this notion of AI? Because apparently somebody used AI to accuse their principal of a racist rant that apparently he didn't really do. So that was the other story that was an AI related story. And I was just wondering y'all's thoughts about that, because I'm even thinking with the election that there could be people doing all kinds of fake things, even about
it will take place. Watch this year. Artificial intelligence will infiltrate our election process. Mark my word. Mark my words on it.
The only way it'll turn out eventually. The only way you can figure out whether something was made by AI is to ask your own AI, "Hey, is this real or fake?" So good luck with everything.
Well,
but I wanted to go back to that Trump appeal thing. So this is a big deal. This just happened yesterday. I didn't even read about it until you mentioned it. So
you got to keep up with it, Rick.
Yeah, Trump lost his appeal for the 83 million. So that means what? He appeals again to a higher court.
He can appeal one more time. He can appeal like 2 more times, and then it's over. Maybe one more time. That's it.
Yeah,
he's going to run out of appeals. Then he's better write
the money.
But I
want to mention something about AI that scared me the other day. I got a notice from AI, and it said, I was texting for some help with my plane tickets, and they said, well, apparently I'm not able to help you. Shall I contact my human coworker? And I go, wait a minute. AI has a human coworker. I said, no, can you put me in touch with your human supervisor, or do you have an AI supervisor? You're
being a smart aleck to an AI machine. That's pretty
then
cool.
I get on the phone with them, and they go, shall I connect you with our human colleague? And I'm like, so since when did AI become our colleagues? I'm a little nervous about it.
Don't you have Alexa at your house? That's been the colleague there for a while, and that's a form of AI.
Can I put you in Alexa? Can I put you in touch with my boss, the AI person? That's gonna be the future. Just deal with it.
Excuse me.
We don't need schools, because we'll have artificial intelligent teachers. And that'll be real cheap for Jatovia, and they can teach in the public schools. Hi, I'm your AI teacher. I'm teaching in public schools.
That's already there
to your people because I'm AI, and Jatovia will be in heaven. So we'll have all the AI teachers be in the public school system. That'll make Jatovia happy. Go on, Rick.
So there was a case I read about where somebody calls customer service for an airline. The AI tells them that they can get the bereavement fare retroactively. All they have to do is, present it. Turns out that's completely wrong. The AI made it up. The airline argued, well, we're not responsible for any untruths our AI tells.
I mean, because that's part of the problem that's going on, because I mentioned earlier that I'm part of that measurement company, and I can tell you right now, those humans are continuing to grade the papers, but we are grading against AI, and there may be a point eventually that the AI does all of the scoring, in which case that entire job field would be eliminated, because that's even what we're doing now, is sometimes being trained against and going against their score. So like we'll give a score and then they'll come back and give another score, and the powers that be may think that the AI is more accurate, but that's part of what the
eventually every kid, and I would guess that some public school systems already give every kid a tablet, but it'll be cheaper to give a kid a tablet with an AI tutors, mentor thing who works with the kid and tells the kid when they screwed up their homework or whatever. It'll be like a talking book instead of a textbook. Yeah. You'll have a talking,
Yeah, you don't need teachers. You don't need public schools. Doubtful whether you need charter schools.
Well, no, I mean, it'll be you'll have teachers, but it'll be cheaper to supplement the teaching with these systems.
Come on, everything you need to learn in the world is on YouTube anyway. Let's just get real. You just direct them to YouTube. YouTube knows everything.
Speaking of education,
and get rid of the school system.
Did anyone see what happened with the Columbia University that they've been talking about this morning?
Oh yeah, I think they should.
I mentioned at the beginning of the valedictorian.
They should arrest them all, put them in jail for a year. I mean, the thing is, look, it's a private school. Columbia's private school. I've been on the mall before. They have no right to be on private property. If I was the president of Columbia, which I'm not, I would send out the National Guard or police, arrest them all, prosecute them.
You're going to arrest students. You're going to arrest students for protesting.
For a year.
But weren't they allowing protest of one kind?
You can go protest if you want to protest. Protest in Central Park, buddy. That Central Park's public area.
Right,
go to Central
but
Park.
They were allowing protest on the grounds of one kind,
not Columbia.
But they wouldn't. Yeah, they wouldn't allow the other group to come in.
No. They have no right to protest at all. It's private property. Get your butt out.
There's such a divide in all of this, and there's
they don't belong on Columbia University. They don't belong on USC.
Well, then they shouldn't have allowed
paid
the other
hard-earned dollars to go to school.
So Nick,
they should protest on the campus. It's supposed to be
So hold on. No. I think what Kim is talking about is correct. Again, we've got to. The problem is that we are
kick them out
at a point that we can't even talk. And so
when
people are protesting, we're not even trying to listen to what they're trying to tell you. So until we have a sit down or actually parlay and just talk about the situation, these individuals want to express something.
I don't want to listen to them. Jatovi, look, they've been fighting for 2,000 years.
Hold on. Here's the counterpoint to you. Nick,
go to Central Park. Go to Central Park. Get off my property.
Here's a counterpoint to you. I don't want to hear.
I don't want to listen to their.
You have the right to say I don't want to hear and pick it
That's
about.
Right. I have a right.
They have the right to pick it and say they want you to hear.
Well,
Nick, before we get off, Nick, hold on a second.
Go to
before we get
Central
off,
Park.
would you allow organizations that are politically oriented on your fictional campus that you are running? Because like I said, there are the young Republicans. When I was in college, I was actually a member of Amnesty International. Some people like that organization, some people don't, but I was a proud member of Amnesty International and everything. So would you allow organizations like that and those organizations that have political affiliations, whether it's the Young Republicans, the Young Democrats, or even ethnic affiliations, whether it's the Black Student Alliance or the Hispanic Student Alliance, on your fictional campus?
If I have a private campus like Columbia or where I went to school, the University of Miami, no, they're not allowed there. If they want to go protest, they can go to some public school, which Jatovi likes, and protest all they like.
Hold on.
Or they go to Central Park.
They allow one organization.
Wait. These protests are a great thing. Our kid was a Jewish student at Columbia. They worked her ass off, and now Jewish students are being said, don't come to school. It's like a snow day. We were bummed that she never got to see New York because Columbia was working her too hard. But now our kid, if she were there now, she'd get a vacation to go see the city.
Yeah.
Also, that's all well and good. But if I was at a Columbia University, which I'm not, and they were protesting on my private property, which they are, I would kick their butts off, send them all to jail.
We were letting some and not others.
Here's the even worst part. Here's the worst part of what you're saying.
Sidewalks of New York, they can protest in Central Park.
Here's the worst part of what you're saying.
Property.
This is the worst part of what you're saying. You're saying that you want if we go back to the fictional college campus,
Can I
only want
go on your
individuals-
fictional lawn and
You
protest?
only want
Toby?
individuals
You'd
who think
arrest
like
my
you.
butt and you'd send me to
You
jail so
only-
fast
you
to make
don't
my head
want-
spin.
You
Come
don't
on.
want challenged thought. You only want people to
No,
think
not on
like
my
you,
property. You
talk
don't want me
like
on your
you,
property
and do
protest.
everything just like
You
you.
can do it on,
So
do it on the
therefore, you
sidewalk.
have no disagreements.
gotta
and just
wrap.
have another bubble.
Yeah.
It's
do.
been a great
Okay,
day.
we'll yell at each other.
Good
later.
weekend,
We gotta
everybody.
go to a talk show called the about Ukraine.
Ukraine
I
show
want to hear
coming
more
up.
about that. So thank you for watching us. Look forward to seeing you Monday.
Yep.